Okay, so let's dive right into it. So the brushes that I'm going to be talking about in this video are all coming from this Procreate 5 art pack. This is a brush pack that I've put together. I've spent a long time on this. The link to this will be in the description. This is a collection of my favorite brushes. So in this video, I'm going to be going through most of these brushes in this pack and explaining how I use them. So a link to that in the description. I also have a free version of this brush pack. So if you want to try him out and see if it might be something that you want to pick up, then I'll leave a link to that as well. There won't be as many brushes in that pack, but it should be enough to sort of get an idea of what's in here. Anyways, let's go ahead and check out the brushes. Let's start at the top with Dr. Monoline. So Dr. Monoline is simply exactly what it sounds like. It's a mono thickness line. It's really good for creating shapes like these because the thickness of the line is always the same, no matter if you press lightly or hard down. There's no opacity change or anything like that. It's just a very nice monoline brush. Second one down is Dr. Tattoo. Dr. Tattoo is great because he can draw very thin lines and he can go quite thick, like so. And one thing that I tried my best to do with this brush is to create a nice brush that you can have control, but it sort of forgives you for being human. So, you know, if you have a little bit jittery hand, he sort of tries to smooth it out just a little bit, not too much. And also, if you suddenly press really hard down, he sort of tapers into the thicker parts. So it's a really nice brush for creating these sort of tattoo lines or just sort of flowy line work. So one of my absolute all-time favorite brushes to use for anything related to drawing lines. Now, moving on to Dr. Sharp. He's a cousin of Dr. Tattoo, but he's more meant to be used for the cases that you want a sort of jittery line. So maybe if you're drawing like a lightning bolt or something like that, and you want to have a little bit of jitteriness, he's less forgiving and you have to be more precise when you use him. Next one up is Dr. Darkness. So why is it called Dr. Darkness? Just sort of looks a little bit drab and dreary, and yeah, I don't know. I just always when I draw with this brush, I feel like there's just a little bit something wrong in this world. And yeah, and this brush sort of reflects that. I would love to see you prove me wrong. So if you do pick up this brush pack, I would love to see if you create a happy looking drawing with Dr. Darkness. That'd be really nice. Maybe he isn't all that dark and dreary as I'm imagining him to be. So one thing about Dr. Darkness is like if I try to draw the same line again and again and again, you can see each line looks different than the other. Anyways, moving on to Dr. Splatter. A splatter is more meant for just laying down some color. A splatter goes 90 degrees in the color wheel, depending on how hard you press down. So if I have yellow here selected, so yellow selected, and I draw lightly, you can see we're sort of in the yellow range. But if I draw hard down, we go into the green. So the same goes if I select the green, it should go to blue. So if I tap lightly, I'm into the green, but if I tap hard down, we go into the blues. So just a nice brush for creating sort of variations of color with some nice blending modes. I use this if I need to just fill a page with sort of textured color, then this one works really well for that. Dr. Oil Slick. Well, Dr. Oil Slick is just a nice oil painting brush. It can be used for blending colors. He drags the pixels around. It's just a nice oil brush that I use when I need this sort of effect. I used to use these a lot when I first started using Procreate, but since Procreate 5 came out, I just have access to so many cool new brushes that I've started using these less and less. Anyways, moving on to the color glitch brushes. The main point of these brushes is to create sort of glitchy, colorful effects. So we have 3 brushes to choose from here. This one is sort of the main color glitch brush. Let me just put that at the top right here. It works like this. So if I draw down, you can see it's just sort of weirdly glitchy. yeah, I just absolutely love using this because you can really quickly start to build sort of cool looking textures. And this works really well if you scale this up, for example, and go into the liquify, add a bit of distortion to it, and then just do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and all of a sudden you now have liquid flow art done really easily in just a few seconds, really. Like you can do this super quickly, just get a pretty cool effect like this. Anyways, so that is sort of the Color Glitz family of brushes. Let me know in the comments down below what these should be called. I just call them Color Glitz, but I would love to hear your thoughts on sort of more creative names for these brushes. Also, if you have creative names for any of the other brushes, let me know in the comments down below. Anyways, moving on to Color Glitz 1. That is a very similar brush to the Color Glitz. Creates glitzy looking, saturated, colorful effects, but with a slightly different brush shape. Then we have colors, and this one goes really big, as you can see. It goes this big, and the main purpose of this one is to fill the page with color. So there we go. I filled the page with color, and now I can, yeah, I don't know, maybe duplicate it, flip it, change the blending mode to something like this, liquefy some of it, and you know, do whatever you need. Just a nice way to create a full page of color. You can blur it maybe to get some nice gradients, and you can use that as a blending mode on top of things, or you know, do whatever you need. I just often need to create a random assortment of colors, so that's why I have this one. Now let's talk about Dr. Sharpfeather. I know it's a little bit weird name, but bear with me. It does this sort of thing. Yeah, this is Dr. Sharpfeathers, and it's just one of those brushes that sort of always surprise me when I pick up. This one also works really well with a drawing assist. I mean, check that out. That was 5 strokes. 5 strokes, and I have this. Let's move on to Dr. Flow. So Dr. Flow is a sort of line art brush, so similar to Dr. Tattoo, but if you press a little bit harder down, it does this sort of thing. That's Dr. Flow. Now moving on to the next ones. These ones should probably be paired with Dr. Darkness, because these are in the Darkness family. And this one is pretty much just a thicker version of Dr. Darkness. So if you need to create a little bit thicker darkness effect, you know, if the darkness is all consuming in your life right now, then you know, this is probably the perfect brush for that. I hope it isn't. No, I hope you're all doing really well and staying safe and all that. But sometimes life is just a little bit out of our control. On the brighter side, sometimes you need a little bit more control, which is where Dr. Darkness Clean comes in. So if you need to create a line from here to here, for example, and you need it to be consistent, that's where you use Dr. Darkness Clean, because the normal darkness brushes, they can be a little bit random, and sometimes you don't get exactly the line that you need. You just want a clean line here. That's where Dr. Darkness Clean comes in. It's just a little bit more predictable version of the darkness brushes. So this is often what I do when I create a cool brush concept. I'll make a weird version of it and I'll make a clean version of it so that if you need to just patch things a little bit, then you can use that one. This one is a sort of hybrid of Dr. Darkness and some sort of industrial vibe. That's maybe the only way I can describe it. It just has this sort of raggedy feel to it, so crossbar, glitchy effect. The next one is Follow the Stream, and that is a very simple multi-line brush that follows the direction of the brush. So it always tries to sort of keep itself parallel to the direction of the movement that is going on. So it really pairs well with a drawing assist. So if you have a Symmetry drawing assist going on, then you can create some pretty cool effects like so. So that was a single stroke. I just went like this. Yeah. Now, there's a million ways to use these brushes, and I'm so excited to see what you decide to make with these brushes. So if you decide to pick this up and draw something, please tag me on Instagram. I would love to see what you decide to make. But anyways, let's move on to Dr. Shading. So let me do one thing just to demonstrate what that's all about. So I'm gonna draw a line like so. And let's say for the sake of this video that I want this entire line to be shaded. So what I simply do is I pick up the shading brush and I draw a single line like so, hold it down, edit the shape, move it into place. And now I've sort of created a rudimentary shading effect on this line. So if you're doing line work and you have hundreds or thousands of lines and you really want to shade them really quickly just to create a shading effect, just like so, create a little bit of shading there, do something like this, then this is perfect for that. Moving on to Skywalker. Now Skywalker is a little bit weird. Holding lightly, we get this sort of effect, right? But if I press hard down, it sort of smudges out and glitches a little bit. And moving on to a different color, if we add a different color, we can see how that has an effect. I don't know why I call it Skywalker. Maybe you can suggest a better name for it. I would love to hear that. But this is the sort of effect that I use it for. And I can pick this up and warp it and do all sorts of stuff. So yeah, let's move on to Dr. Symmetry. Now Dr. Symmetry pairs really well with a Symmetry drawing assist. So let me just show you with a single line. I can create this or this or this. You know, all of these brushes have a little bit of a learning curve to learn how to use them. But yeah, Dr. Symmetry, just a fascinating brush. Sometimes it's a little bit unpredictable. So let me show you just, if I create a line like so, you see it just dropped out right there. That's one of its characteristics. It doesn't really like to behave. You have to sort of figure out what the brush wants to do and try again and try again and try again sometimes until you get the perfect line. And that is the magic about this brush. That's why I love to use it. But if you need a little bit more structure in your life, if you need a little bit more regularity, and maybe you have created a really nice shape like this, but now you want to maybe connect it up. You want this to go here and this to go there maybe. It can be a little bit difficult with the Symmetry brush because, you know, it doesn't like to behave. So that's why I created the companion brushes, the Dr. Symmetry structure. So it's the same sort of brush shape, but completely predictable, so you can just draw like you want. Dr. Symmetry invert structure is the same as this one, but whenever you turn the brush, it turns in the opposite direction. So it just gives it a vibrant interestingness. I don't know how to describe that. Turning on drawing assist, you can also create pretty cool effects. As you can see, that was 1, 2, 3, 4 strokes. We got this. Okay, so moving on to sort of the chaotic brushes. This is the family of brushes that I use to create large textures, or, you know, if I need an explosion of color or a blending mode on a large scale, I use these sort of brushes. So the first one is Crash, and it does this sort of thing if I have the drawing assist on, but if I turn it off, you can maybe go into the selection tool, draw a little freehand figurine, maybe something like this, then use the brush, fill it in, and there you go. You get a pretty cool shape going on there, and then you can morph it into whatever you want. So that's what the Crash does. Crash 2 is a similar brush, but more like a shattered glass feeling to it. As you can see, it has texture on each fragment, but is completely random. And yeah, pairing this with some color, you can get pretty cool effects. If you do maybe something like this. Moving on to Dr. Spike and Spike 1, and they are pretty similar. They do this sort of thing, just sort of broken, abstract landscape of shapes or something. I'm starting to run out of words to describe these brushes. Anyways, its companion is Dr. Spike 1. It has a slightly different blending mode. It sort of hollows out its innards when it gets too saturated. Snowflake, you know, sometimes you need snowflakes. So there you go. Dr. Filler, it's a nice brush when you need to just sort of create ambient texture, maybe like a fog in the distance, or you just need to sort of to blend things. I think fog would probably suit this well, but it also has a little bit of a grainy texture, so you have details in the brush, so it sort of looks like it was painted. Definitely a useful brush when creating this sort of ambient mist. Dr. Chaos. Well, how can I describe Dr. Chaos? He doesn't really care about how he's described. Dr. Chaos is a combination of nightmares and happy thoughts, and trying to understand why we're all a part of this world. We're alive, but somehow dreaming. Wait, what was I saying? Dr. Chaos is just this. Sharp Crash, similar concept here. I use it often when I need to take away things, like for example, if I have this one right here and I apply alpha lock on it, then I might pick a black color and just sort of remove bits of it, just to make it a little bit more interesting. Controlled Chaos. It's a cousin of Dr. Chaos, but it's a sort of oil painting brush that goes a little bit berserk when you apply a bit of pressure. Then you see the chaos emerge. The next one is Strike. So Strike is this sort of thing. It's two brushes. It's this one you see here, and then it's this one you see in the middle over there. And they're sort of dancing around each other. So a pretty interesting brush to use. Stroke smudge. Now we get into the more traditional brushes, which are sort of more meant for traditional artists, which are used to, you know, dipping the brush into paint and then draw with it. You know, the paint runs out. You draw with it and then it runs out. But when it runs out, you can still go ahead and smudge it around a bit. And that's what these brushes are all about. It's a more additive, a more controlled way of painting. You know, you paint one section at a time and you're sort of sculpting the paint when you're drawing like this. And these are all variations of this. This one lasts a little bit longer, as you can see right here. I created these brushes for a friend of mine who creates more traditional art, and he was looking for a brush that allows him to, you know, put the paint down and sculpt it sort of gradually, like so. Smooth smudge, similar one, but it has this brush shape on it, so it's more meant for sort of smudging out the edges of things, like so. If you need to just tweak the edges a little bit, make them sort of sharp but yet smooth on the inert, like so. It's a little bit of a learning curve to use these, but I think in the right hands these can be really powerful. Stroke smudge is this sort of brush shape and does pretty much the same, but as you can see it has more streaky effect compared to the other ones. So if you're looking for this sort of effect, more perhaps traditional brush strokey looking brush, yeah, then this one's pretty good for that. All with the same concept. You sort of run out of paint, but you can still smudge. And then finally, the final brush here is Dr. Dimension. And Dr. Dimension is a fantastic brush to use with a drawing assist. And let me just show you a little bit what it does. Yeah, I could probably draw with this for hours. Anyways, that was my brush pack. Links to everything in the description. If you want to pick up the light version of this brush pack, check that out. If you're willing to support the channel by buying this brush pack, then please do so. I'd really appreciate it. Also, let me know what you think about the brushes and what brushes you would like to see me add to this brush list. So thank you for picking up the brush pack. I really appreciate it. It helps out the channel a lot. Now let's talk about that t-shirt that I was wearing in the beginning of the video. I said that I would show you how to ship products like these to customers. So this t-shirt was made by a company called Printful. And Printful is a drop shipping company that prints on demand. So if you always wanted to design your own t-shirt, or if you always want to sell printed versions of your artworks but didn't want to deal with the printing, the shipping and all the logistics around all of that, well, then Printful is exactly that. It does that all for you. So basically, you can upload an image and put it on whatever product that Printful has to offer. I started looking for a dropshipping company for my website about 5 months ago, which is when I found Printful. I opened up a dialogue with them, and after speaking together a few times, I decided to sample their products and really liked what they made. You can see the quality of the t-shirt on the screen right now. So we decided to start collaborating, which is why I'm telling you about it right now. And also which is why you'll see an affiliate link in the description. Now a lot has changed in those 5 months since I started talking to Printful. And I know these are strange times, but maybe for some people, this might be the perfect time to create an online store, because online shopping has increased a lot and there's very low startup cost because you don't have to buy an inventory of products. You just open up a store and Printful handles everything else. Each product is made by order. And if you have a website made, for example, using Wix, then you can follow the step-by-step instructions that I link in the description in order to set that whole thing up. Now, one thing that I have to mention is that, yes, we are living in strange times right now where things change rapidly. Almost every company in the world has been affected by the COVID virus. And I asked a representative at Printful about what their business contingency plan is. In other words, what are they doing in order to continue fulfilling orders and keeping up with demand of increased online shopping. The representative at Printful told me that they are, yes, being affected by the virus like almost every company in the world, but they have partnered with 2 backup facilities in US and Australia in order to keep up with demand. And I don't want to go into too much detail here, but if you want to read more about what Printful are doing in order to maintain fulfilling orders, then check out the link in the description. And also, check out this link right here, because at the moment, some countries have restrictions on mail import. They won't accept mail. Yeah, I know, it's crazy times. But I recommend that you read this before starting sending products to those countries. So in summary, if you're planning to start an online store, first I would recommend that you check out Printful. And if you want to support the channel at the same time, then please use the affiliate link in the description. Second, Check out the links in the description in order to learn about how to start an online store in the time of COVID-19. I'll probably do an in-depth video about Printful sometime in the future, but for now, stay safe, have a wonderful day. I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.